Hey guys, it's Rodney, and today I'm going to show you guys how we made this super simple hat rack and belt hanging rack out of just two 1x6s that we had laying around. It also seems like the perfect time to tell you guys about some of our new merch on the website. We've got our new hats up, so if you guys have not checked it out already, go to rodneyandjake.com/shop to check them out. Now let's go check out what you're really here for. Alright guys, so like we said, we used a couple of scrap 1x6 pine boards. I think we had them for molding or something of that nature, but I cut them down to 48 inches in length. After measuring the space and how many hats we wanted to do, we thought that 48 inches was going to be the best bet. And then I took that 48 inches and I marked every 4 inches on the board. Again, just kind of based on the hat sizes and some of the other versions of these I've seen online, 4 inches seemed to be a good mark for us. I think you could definitely go a little closer, but 4 inches seemed to work just fine. And then what I did is I marked the center of the board. This helped me know where to start the hole. We are using our newest Craig multi-mark tool. It's actually been super helpful to have. This is the 1.5 inch bit that is drilling the center hole. This is going to be something that helps hold the hat once it's in place. You could probably go a little smaller. I went 1.5, just again, making sure there's enough wiggle room for different styles or types of hats. I wasn't worried about it being too clean. I mean, most of our hats we wear for work anyways. This multi-mark tool by Craig is really awesome for setting depths, but also it's got a kind of a locks in place for a 45-degree angle. So that is the angle that I went with. It's also about 1 inch wide, so it worked out pretty perfect. I was going to go for 3/4 of an inch, but given that this guy was 1 inch wide, I just used it as a guide and got it lined up to the bottom of each of my holes. This angle is what's going to help hold the hat in place once it's folded in. And then with just a standard wood bit on the jigsaw, I just used the lines we just marked as guides to cut out the little slants or slopes here that'll help hold the hat in place, creating kind of a little hook. You could totally do this with like a carpentry square or a speed square. It'll give you a much straighter line, but again, it's such a short distance, and this is really just for our work hats, so I wasn't worried about it being too perfect. And then to kind of soften everything, I used a little 1/4 inch quarter round bit on the router. This is just going to kind of soften all of the edges and make sure that there's no little splinters and kind of prevent any chipping in the future, but that way it doesn't really allow the hat to get stuck on anything, so it kind of prevents that sharp edge. I also chose to do the top and the bottom of the board because those are the ones that we're going to see or will be exposed off the wall. And we did go ahead and do both sides of the board because again, the hat's going to kind of sit midway on this, or this piece here is like the midway of the hat. So having both sides rounded out and softened so that the hat doesn't get stuck or kind of tear on any of the fibers, this is definitely a must. This was me just test fitting with the hat I was wearing, and that's kind of the idea. So yeah, so it'll kind of fold in half and then you'll stick it up on one of the hooks, and that's what will hold it in place. Now, most of these I've seen online have just been just this board and they hook it to the wall, but another thing we have an issue with in our closet is our belts. I hate belt storage. So I thought, why not take the opportunity to take the other 48 inch 1x6 and get these guys lined up. So I'm going to put the hat hooks on one edge of this board, and then I'm going to use the flat surface of the other 1x6 just to put in a couple of hangers so that our belt hooks have something to hang on. And because this is going to be up against the wall, I did go ahead and pre-drill these because, again, this wood is only, 3/4 of an inch thick, but I used the countersink bit as well so the screws sat flush with the back of the wood so that there was nothing kind of sticking out or hitting the wall once it's hung up. By doing the belt section, it also gave me a place to secure it to the wall. So I didn't have to do anything too crazy when it came to hanging just the singular board up against the wall. I did add some glue here because, again, this was scrap wood, so the wood is not perfectly straight nor flat, and so it's got a little bit of a bow to it, so I decided to add some wood glue in there just to kind of hold it tight, and I am just using the Tight Bond 3 that I had left over. And then with the pre-drilled holes we had, I just anchored in a couple of 1.5-inch screws just to make sure it didn't split the wood. And then again, the board was a little warped, so I did decide to add in a couple of extra screws at the top and bottom sections there, and 1 or 2 in the middle just to really secure it in. I think there was a total of about 5 screws altogether. Wipe off that excess glue, which I always have overage of. But again, wasn't too worried here because it is just kind of a secondary piece, but there's the general idea. So it kind of looks like a big L shape. And then I decided that originally I was going to stain it, but ultimately I landed on using the same paint that we painted our kind of redone IKEA cabinets that are in the closet. And if you have not seen that video, be sure to go check that out. We can do a link at the end here. But we did use a shellac primer on those, and then we used this color by Sherwin-Williams called Leatherbound. It looks a little bit more kind of, I guess, tan or orange here. In real life, in person, off camera, it's got a lot more brown to it. It still does have a little bit of that warm orange hue, which is nice in the closet space, but it ended up turning out pretty sharp. And for installing, I had already found where a stud was on the wall. I was just double checking myself here, but I just basically used 1 screw at the top, got that anchored and secured into my line on the stud, and then once that was installed, I threw a level up on the top just to make sure it was as upright as possible, and then secured the bottom end of the stud as well so that we knew it had a good hold. Now, where I'm standing in the closet might look like a smaller space, but the stairway there is almost about a full 4-foot opening. This does stick off the wall about a full 6 inches, so something just to be aware of when you are finding your space. Now, our hats were just on a shelf before, so this was just an easy, quick project that allowed us to kind of put them on display, but more importantly to know what hats we even owned, and it was just a lot cleaner of a way to kind of hold them or store them than them just sitting on top of a shelf. Then once I had all the hats up, I couldn't remember where I put the pegs for the belts, just like I can never remember to put a belt on. But once I found them, I did just kind of secure them at the top of the flat board or the board mounted flush up against the wall, and then those pegs were easy for me to just slip the clasp of the belt and let those guys hang evenly there. And if you guys like this project or want to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on other social medias at Rodney and Jake. And as always, we want to give a huge shout out to all of our members. Thank you guys for your support. We'll see you guys next time.